begin the current Daf, Mesechta Chagigah Daf Zayin, begin on the bottom line of Avoma Beis, where the Gemara continues a discussion that will relate back to the discussion in the previous Daf, to the halacha of Mishnah, which is the topic really of this parak, this Mesechta, regarding the mitzvah of Re'iyah, as we had a machlekes in the Mishnah regarding the shiur, what is for the carbon Re'iyah versus that of the carbon Chagigah, and our Gemara continues a discussion related to that. Today's Daf. Some of the things we discuss in today's Daf are the well-known Mishnah Mesechta Peah that we say every single morning, shiur, that the following items have no limits to them, including hero'oyin, which that refers to both the carbon Re'iyah, which minat Torah, an animal of any value, suffices for the oilus Re'iyah, and Re'iyah's pun ba'azara, regarding appearing in the azara even without a carbon. The Gemara cites machlekes of asa va'aitzi. If a person can bring additional karbonis Re'iyah when he comes back to the azara, second or third time, in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Tov. The pasuk says, "V'lo yirah panei reikam." That means bezvachim. A person has to appear himself, where the oilus Re'iyah has to be an animal, not a bird or a mincha. Mishnah discusses also the three karbonis brought on Yom Tov. That's the Re'iyah, and that's the carbon oila that's brought as an oila, and Chagigah, the carbon shlom that person brings on Yom Tov, and the simcha, which is the carbon shlom the person has to bring to have simcha when eating meat on Yom Tov. And boys, minachulin or minamaisa. We're going to discuss whether they have to be brought from ordinary chulin animals, or if a person can even use meiser, animals that would purchase with the funds of meiser sheni. And this is based on the rule of kol davar shebechayva, and about chulin, anything that's mandatory of a carbon can only be brought from chulin funds. So we begin the current Daf Yomi Beis, the bottom line on the Amr. San Hasam, learned about the Mishnah Mesechta Peah. This, again, the famous Mishnah that many say after Birchas Torah. These are the things that don't have a measurement, a specific amount. As we continue to Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, they are hapeya, which the Torah did not give a shiur, a measurement for how much of the corner of your field has to be left over for the poor. Now, although there's no biblical measurement, but the sages did give a shiur of 1/60th, but biblically there's no measurement, there's no minimum, there's no maximum for how much a person could go ahead and set off of his field. Also, Babikurim is the first fruits that a person has from the Shivas Aminim that he brings to the Beis Hamikdash. The pasuk says in the Ram Chavav, you're going to take from the first of all the fruits of your land. It doesn't say how many. Which the Gemara can explain, that means Re'iyah, which is the mitzvah we're discussing here in these dafim of our Mishnah regarding appearing on the Shalosh Regalim. V'gemilas chasadim, and acts of kindness, which Taisa brings from the Yerushalmi, that's only with a person's body. But a person's money, there actually is a shiur, because we know al yevaz v'ez adam mechaim, which a person shouldn't give more than a fifth. So although doing kindness with your body, that is no limit, but regarding one's money, yes. And regarding bigger chaylim, that also has no shiur, like the Gemara says in the Dharm, says Taisa, that's including gemilas chasadim. And with Talmud Torah, that's why we say it in the morning, because it refers to that of Talmud Torah, that also is something that has no shiur, regarding the minimum and regarding the maximum. Now, Amar Yechon, he actually says, we thought to say that when it says Ein Lem Shiur in this Mishnah in Mesechta Peah, it's just that there is no measurement on how much, that you could bring as much as you want to for the value of the Re'iyah. But it does have a measurement like how little you could give, that you can't give less than a Ma'al Kesef, like in our Mishnah. Because, as Rashi explains, we thought that the shiur is biblical, which, as Tais explains, well, that would seemingly be different in all the other things in that list in Mesechta Peah. No, he would hold like the other Tan in the Yerushalmi that actually holds Peah actually has a shiur lamata. There is the 60th that you're supposed to give is actually biblical. That's what we thought to say. And even until the great Rabbi Shia, the great one of his generation, he came along, but when he taught, actually the mitzvah of Re'iyah, ain't shiur, there's no measurement, not how much and not how little, biblically. So biblically, it could be as little or as much as you want to. The halacha of our Mishnah, that was from rabbinic law. The sages came along and they said, the oilus Re'iyah, again, according to what Basil holds, it should be a 1 silver ma and a Chagigah shtekesef, and the carbon Chagigah should be 2 silver coins. In other words, that shiur that we said in the Mishnah of Re'iyah and Chagigah was from the words of the Chacham. Now, once we said this Mishnah, the Gemara says My re'oya. In other words, what the Gemara is asking is, it's an interesting word we never said till now. Up until now, we were always saying in the Mishnah, Hakol chayim b're'iyah, we use the word re'iyah. Now, which that would sound like the monetary value of the oil. Now, by saying re'oyin, it doesn't sound like you're talking about the monetary value of the oilas re'iyah. It sounds like the re'oyin, which is the appearance, which sounds like as if we're talking about how the person appears and brings himself to be seen in the Beis Hamikdash. So what does re'oyin mean? So Rabbi Shloimy says it means re'iyah is panim ba'azar. It means, yeah, actually how many times you want, you could come and you could appear and show yourself in the azar, and you don't have to bring a carbon every time you appear. That's what means re'oyin elam shiur. There's no measurement, meaning that the first time that you brought a carbon was enough. Now you could come as many times as you want to without a carbon. Shlakar says, no, re'iyah is panim b'carbon. Yeah, you could appear, there's no shiur, you could come as many times as you want to, but every time you come, you have to bring a carbon. So that's machlokes Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg regarding every time you come, if you have to bring a carbon or not. Now, so the Gemara qualifies this machlokes. Beikar regel and the primary Yom Tov itself, meaning on the first day of Yom Tov, cool down the plague, no one's going to disagree that he is panim b'carbon. And when you come and you appear on Yom Tov itself, you have to bring a carbon. Ki pliki b'shayim meiser regel. The machlokes is regarding the other days of the Yom Tov. Then, if you're coming another time, that's their machlokes. You have to bring a carbon or not. Moreover, kol heicha da asa ba'aisi. Whatever it is that you're coming and you do bring, no one's going to disagree that you will accept the carbon from him as an oilus re'iyah. Keep pligid, their whole machlekes is the asa b'lo yaisik. Someone's going to come and he's not going to bring a carbon. He holds, you're appearing in the courtyard. Whenever you come, you don't have to bring. If you bring, fine, but you don't have to bring. He says, no, carbon. You have to appear with your face in with a carbon. Whenever you come, so you have to go ahead and bring a carbon. So therefore, we qualifying it's not on the first day because everyone agrees the first day you have to bring. Moreover, if you bring, no one's going to disagree that will accept. The other days, if you don't want to bring, that's Rabbi Shloimy if you could come as many times as you want to without bringing a carbon. Now, Shlokish asked on Rabbi Yochanan, who Rabbi Yochanan said that you don't have to bring a carbon every time you come from the pasuk in Shmais. He says, don't see my face empty-handed. It sounds like every time you come to the Bain Shalaylam, then you should have something that you're bringing. So how could he say you know what to bring? Amalei says no, that's Beikar Regel. That's the primary Yom Tov itself that was saying that you can't see Hashem's face empty-handed, but the rest of the Yom Tov, then yeah, you don't have to bring anything. Additionally, the Gemara asks from that same pasuk, it says in the Braisa, shouldn't see my face empty-handed. What does it mean? So it says the Braisa means bizvachim, with animal sacrifice. Is that really so that you have to bring a carbon behema that's slaughtered with a knife? Maybe you could bring a oilas ha'if, which you do malika on, which you don't do, it's not called a zebach, you don't slaughter with a knife, umanachas or flour offerings. On that says the Braisa no bedinu. Logic would tell us that specifically zvachim. Why? Because remember Chagigah Daf, it says that you bring a carbon Chagigah for the regular person, meaning it's a regular person gets to eat from the Shama Chagigah. And in its counterpart, you bring the oilus re'iyah for Hashem, because it says Lo Yaro Panai, Hashem is saying. Sounds like that he's asking for his own needs, so to speak. Like, don't come to me empty-handed. It's like the mother says to the son, it says that, when you come, the mother moves to a new apartment, says, so when you come, ring the doorbell with your elbow. When you come into the apartment, so kick it open with your left foot. He says, "What's why do you have to do this?" He says, "Well, you're coming empty-handed." You know what I'm saying? You're coming for a saying, don't come to me. So he's coming. It's for Hashem. So ma Chagigah amur had you just like the Chagigah that was said for the person is vachim. Those are animal sacrifices, like the pasuk says in Chagigah Gimel. Lo yolan chilul chagi ad boker. Don't leave over the fats of my Chagigah till the morning. Obviously, the Chagigah is something that has a chalev, which is sacrificed to Hashem, and that's the animal sacrifices that have chalev. So after so we would compare that what goes to the person, and then the equipment that goes to Hashem should also be zvachim, should also be animal sacrifices. Now, mahin zvachim, and what animal sacrifice do you bring for Hashem as the oilus re'iyah? it's oilus, meaning it doesn't say oilus, it just says Zuriya. It's going to be a totally burnt sacrifice. Oilus, that really saying the one that's brought for Hashem is oilus, or Einei L'Shlamim, maybe, okay, we know it's Zvachim, like we compare it to the Chagigah, but maybe it should be Shlamim like the Chagigah. That would say no, but then again, logic would say, Nemer Chagigah Lehedjiv and Nemer Iligvaya. We bring the Chagigah for what a regular person gets to eat on his karbanos. But Nemer Iligvaya, and we say the Re'iyah, which is for Hashem. Just like the Korban Chagigah we bring that the regular person enjoys, is Barolo, it's fit for him, meaning it's meat that he could eat. So then therefore also the Re'iyah that's brought for Hashem is also Barolo, it's fit for him, which is, that's totally burnt in his bech, that's so to speak what Hashem is eating. And another reason that would dictate that it should be like this, is your table shouldn't be full and God's table empty. Meaning if it's going to be Chagigah again, and you're eating most of the meat, it's piled up on your table, tons of meat, and Hashem's table is very little. No, it would make sense that the Chagigah would be for the Hedyot, and that the Ayla would be for the Re'iyah. Okay, but one thing it sounds like, again, Shlakish is asking, is that Ol Yom Tov, you're eating your Chagigahs, you're eating your meat, Hashem's table should also be full Ol Yom Tov. So whenever you come, seemingly you should have to bring an Oylas Re'iyah. Amalei, no, it says Bikar Regel. This pasuk of Shalai Shulchancha Mali B'Shulchan Rabcharekim is on the primary part again to the first day, but the rest of the days, yes, could be a person will not have to bring a Oylas Re'iyah every time he comes. Esfei, another question Rish Lakish has to be with the following brisa. Visvi Huda Oimi says Shalosh Regal Mashana 3 Yom Tovim in the year. That Sabi Yisrael Lalas V'Regel. The Jewish people commanded to be a Oyl Regel, to make the pilgrimages to the Beis Hamikdash, Chag Matzos, Chag Shavuos, and Chag Sukkos, on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos. And they cannot not appear halfway, which Shigmar is going to explain exactly later. What does that mean? Because it says about all your males, meaning it has to be everyone, not halfway. And moreover, another is they cannot appear empty-handed. Because the pasuk, you can't see my face empty-handed. So you see, says Rish Lakish again, the similar type of a question that you can't come empty-handed no matter when you come. Rish Lakish again for the third time says that's be'ikar regel. That's the primary Yom Tov, the first day Yom Tov. The other days, no, it's not true. You could come a second and a third and a fourth time, and you don't have to bring the Re'iyah every time that you come. Now Esrei, now the other way around. Esrei Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish, who says you have to bring every single time, Rish asks him a question from the following brisa. The pasuk says the word of the way it's read is Yedah. It says three times a year Yedah kol zuchuchas b'nei Hashem lakecha b'makom yishivchar. But we read it Yireh, as we said more than once already in this Masechta. Now, what do we learn from Yedah to Yireh? That there's a way how it's read and there's a way how it's written. Is to say Ma'ani, just like me, Hashem, that I see you b'chinam. Af atem b'chinam. You also see me, also b'chinam. Meaning, for free, that you don't have to bring in the karbanos. So you see, not like Rish Lakish, that every time you come you have to bring a karban. You see that? No. You could come b'chinam. You don't have to bring anything. So actually from that one question, the Gemara falls off from its previous premise and recalibrates the machlokes. Ella rather, no. Whenever a person comes and he does not bring another carbon re'iyah, no one's going to disagree. You could come in, you could see, and you could leave. And you don't have to bring a carbon every single time you come. Ki pligi, to the contrary, the machlekes was the asiva aisi, and the way we have to say it, because you can't come and insist. You don't have to bring any carbon. You don't have to pay every time you come. So that we know. The question was actually if you bring and you come and you do bring. Machlekes was actually Richanan the Amaris pan Lazar that he said that you show your face in the Azara is Re'iyas Panahu Ein Lo Shir. When we said in the Mishnah, the famous Mishnah says Pe'er Ha'oyin Ein Lo Shir, it was only regarding how many times you could appear. Carbon Yesh Lo Shir. Actually, there is a max. There's a limit how many carbons you can bring. It's not an Oylas Re'iyah anymore. It's only one time that's Re'iyah. After that, you're maxed out already. You can't bring anymore. Rish Lakish, he says Re'iyah's Panahu B'Carbon. He says no. That's that we show you face with a carbon Ein Lo Shir. If a carbon not Ein Lo Shir, they even bring a carbon. There's no shir. You don't have to. But if you do bring, then you could bring. That was the machlekes Rish Lakish. Now the Gemara continues now based on that recalibration. The Gemara asks from Rish Lakish, who says that every time you come, you could bring the carbon from Pasuk and Mishlei. Pasuk says, that make your leg scarce from your friend's house, which simply understood the Pasuk is saying, don't hang out in your friend's house all the time. But the drush is, Who's your friend? Your friend is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who calls the Jewish people Re'im. Like you say, this is Hashem is referring to this is the brothers and the friends as Hashem. So it says that you should not be bringing your karbanas to Hashem's house. So how could your shlakish say every time you come you bring a carbon? It says Gemara, no, hasam over there is b'chatois v'hashamas. That what type of karbanas? Sin offerings and guilt offerings. And you shouldn't sin, and you're gonna have to bring a chatas and asham. He said, you again? You were here yesterday. So don't. That's hoiker agacham v'yisraecha. Could you believe? Could you believe? Rabbi poses as a contradiction. On the one hand, it says keep your legs scarce from your friend's house. I mean, don't be coming to Hashem with karbanas all the time. Yet except the pasuk in Tilman says, I come to your house with oilers. Sounds like that's a good thing. So he says, it's not difficult. When should you not be coming with karbanas all the time? That's sin offerings and guilt offerings. But with a totally burnt and shlamim, that is actually a good thing, and therefore it's not a contradiction or a shlakers that every time you're going to come, you're going to bring a carbon. So in the Brisa, keep your legs away from your friend's house. But says the Brisa, is that really so necessarily by sin offerings and guilt offerings? Maybe even though the shlam don't bring so many karbanas. When the pasuk says, "I come to your house with oilos, I will pay up my vows." You see that actually that the guilt, the burnt offerings and the peace offerings are actually a good thing. So what do we fill the pasuk of keep your leg away from your friend's house? It's not different who said that yes, every time you come, you could bring a carbon, and it's actually a good thing. Now we said in the Brisa. So although it wasn't what we brought in for, but once we brought in, the Gemara discusses, it says in the pasuk, Kol Zuchurcha, all your males, which is you can't come in half. You have to bring all your males. So what does that mean? So the Gemara brings that Sabri Visa L'Meimer, Visa thought to say, Man Disle Asarabon, someone has 10 sons, Leilisko Ha'idna Chamisha, Ulamocha Chamisha. You shouldn't come and bring 5 today and 5 tomorrow. Meaning, as Rashi explains, because if not that, then what does it mean in Nir Chatzayin that we learned out from Kol Zechurcha? If you think it means to say that half of your sons are not going to come up to the Beis Hamikdash, what I mean we learn from Zechurcha, your males. Forget about the word Kol. All your males are included in Zechurcha. So what is Kol Zechurcha including when it says they shouldn't come Lechatzayin? He thought it meant to say that you shouldn't have half coming today and half coming tomorrow. They all have to come together. You have to get that suburban and get all the kids at the same time. You can't bring half and half. That's what Kol Zechurcha means, that they shouldn't come Lechatzayin. Not that only half will come and the other half will not, because that doesn't make sense. It will include in Zechurcha. Kol would include that in the same shot. As a continuing term of days, but only Abai said to Rabbi Yosef, he says, it's not true. That also doesn't need a pasuk of Kol to include. Because even without Kol, Pshita, obviously, if you're saying that all his sons are obligated, so I know that each one he has to make them diligent and give them alacrity. And how could the father tell to some that you have zrizas and you be the lazy ones? Which ones are you going to consider as the negligent ones? Now which ones is he going to tell them to? Okay, you guys have zrizas. How could he tell half to come today and half today, and the other one have to go tomorrow? So he says even that you're not going to learn that from Kol. So what are you learning from Kol? What does it mean that they shouldn't come Lechatzayin? So what is the pasuk coming to teach us? Not like Rabbi Yosef thought to say. That says the Gemara look at the Achem like the others. It's not like when the Brisa Achem, we recorded this already on the Avdalad. The others they say Hamakamitz. Certain professions, like let's say those who collect the excrement of dogs, so the people that smelt the copper from the ore, Vabursi and the leather tanners, they're Petum and the Riyah. They're actually exempt, interestingly, from the mitzvah of the Riyah. Shneimuk says in the pasuk, Kol Zechurcha, all your males. What does that mean? Only the one who could come up with all your males. That excludes these individuals that cannot come up with all your males, and that's what it means. Someone that's not able to come up with all the males, rather only like half of them, with a small group, because you're gonna have to make their own chabur because they have this odor. Therefore, that's what we're saying is excluded from Kol Zechurcha, that they cannot come Lechatzayin, but not to have half the sons come today, half tomorrow, because that would be obvious that you wouldn't be able to do that without even the word Kol. Okay, next Mishnah, continuing on the theme of qualifying the Karbanis of Yom Tiv, which we were mentioning in the first Mishnah regarding the Oilus Riyah and the Shama Chagigah. So the Mishnah is a little bit enigmatic, and the Gemara is going to explain what it means. Oilos b'mayit. what it sounds like, if you just read the words, sounds like the Oilos Re'iyah, which we're speaking about in the previous Mishnah, that is brought a Chayla Shomayit, they're boys minachulin. They have to be brought from chulin, from unconsecrated funds, and not from Meiser Sheni funds. Now the reason for this is, as our Gemara is going to discuss, is because of a principle that's called Kol Davar Shebechayva. Anything that's an obligation, which is what the Oilos Re'iyah is on every single person, in the Ba'al Chulin, can only come from chulin. That's why tuition, they say, can't bring from Meiser money, right? Because of this principle, because it's Davar Shebechayva, it's something that you have an obligation. But when you give for the Chinese auction, then you can give. Right? Because if it's Davar Shebechayva, it has to be from chulin. As Gemara says, Benachas Apevez Omen Aleph. So that's what we're saying, that if you bring your Oilos Re'iyah on Chol Hamoed, it's got to be from chulin funds. Now the Gemara is going to ask, why are you picking Chol Hamoed? If you bring it in Yom Tov, what, you think you could bring it from chulin? You can from Meiser, it also has to be brought from chulin. So the Gemara is going to address that while we're mentioning on Chol Hamoed. But people that have made the Oilos Re'iyah has to be brought from chulin funds. Now Vashlamim, on the other hand, and the Meiser, the shlom could be brought from Meiser funds. Now the Gemara is going to explain which shlom we talk about. We're talking about the Shalmei Simcha. There's actually two shlom that we bring. The Shalmei Chagigah, which are also chayva, they cannot be brought from Meiser fund. But the Shalmei Simcha, with the pasuk, it includes it that whatever meat you can get your hands on, even if it's from Meiser, that's also going to qualify. So the shlom can be brought from Meiser. Now Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, the first day of Pesach, which the Gemara is going to explain what is that referring to. And why would we pick specifically the first day of Pesach? But the carbon that we are referring to, they say minachulin has to be brought from unconsecrated funds. But they say no, the Meiser can even be brought from Meiser funds. Moreover, Yisrael Yitzin Dei Chavasi, a regular Jew fulfills the obligation of simcha as for whatever type of meat he can satisfy himself. Doesn't have to specifically slaughter a special carbon shlamim for that purpose, and hence. So you could fulfill it with the dam and the davis if, let's say, a person made a donation all year round. So when he finally comes to Yerushalayim, Yom Tov time, he's going to bring it with him, and he's going to sacrifice the sacrificial parts, and the meat is eaten by the owner. So that meat, he'll fulfill his obligation of Simcha and Yom Tov. Now that's obvious, but because we wanted to say the Seifa, the next line regarding the Kahanim, so we say about a Yisrael, so Yisrael can fulfill it with the dam and the davis, and the Ma'aseh Behema, which is the 10th of every animal, that the new flock, which also has to be brought to the carbon, and you could eat that meat on Yom Tov and fulfill your obligation of Simchas Yom Tov. Now, the Kahanim, which is the primary chiddush, they actually fulfill the obligation by Chatois Vashamis, meaning people did Averes, and they figured, okay, they're coming to the base of Mikdash anyway, they'll bring the Chatas dead. So there's meats that the Kohen gets, which he eats. Who eats the meat of the Chatas and the Asham? It's the Kahanim who eat it. So the meat that he's eating, he fulfills the obligation of Simcha, and he doesn't have to bring a special shlam for the purpose of Simchas Yom Tov. It's only if you have no other meat to satisfy you, but you have the meat of the Chaz Asham, that's good enough. So to B'char, which also goes to the Kohen, he eats that meat of the firstborn animal, the B'chaz of the breast and the thigh of every carbon that's brought of the shlamim of the Oil Regalim. That he fulfills the obligation of Simchas Yom Tov. But a Chatas Ha'if, which, although it is eaten, conscious oil soif, of course not, it's totally burnt, but the chatzas oif, that burnt carbon, is not going to qualify because svia, being satisfied and being happy, is only with bas and with flesh, with animal meat, and not with chicken, not with any fowl, as the Gemara is going to learn this out. And neither, and no kishka, no nothing, no flour offerings, those things are not going to satisfy. It has to be meat of an animal that will satisfy the mitzvah, but it's any meat you can get your hands on. So the Gemara asks, the opening halacha of our Mishnah, which we had alluded to the question already. We said that if you bring your Oilos Re'iyah on Chol Hamoed, it has to be brought from the chulin. So the Gemara says, wait, what? So Oilos B'Moed, so you tell me, the Oilah on Chol Hamoed, who the boys machulin? That has to come from chulin funds, because it's Davar Shebechayva, it cannot be brought from anything but from chulin. But if you bring it on B'Yom Tov, so then you could bring it min ha'maisa, if you want to? What do you mean, why? Davar Shebechayva. The Oilos Re'iyah is an obligatory carbon. Anything that's an obligation of the person in the Balam Chulin can only be brought from not tzedakah money, cannot be brought from Meiser, has to be from Chulin. So why pick specifically Chol Hamoed? And Mechitim, if you're saying that the reason why we pick Moed, which refers to Chol Hamoed, is parenthetically Hakamashma, we wanted to tell you Agav, another Chiddush, to tell you the Oilos that no, that really Oilos Re'iyah b'Moed boys can only become on Chol Hamoed, but b'Yom Tov the boys, but they cannot be brought on Yom Tov proper. Because the Oilos Re'iyah cannot be sacrificed in Yom Tov. even though it's an obligation for the Yom Tov, but since you can make it up on Chol Hamoed, so we have no right to do malacha on Yom Tov. Says how could you say that's what our Mishnah would mean? Come on, who would that be like? That would be Beis Shammai. We never say like Beis Shammai in regards to his machlekes of Beis Hillel. There's not like we learn the Mishnah later on. This Masechta of Yizayim Medal. The Mishnah brings this machlekes. Beis Shammai, they say, Mevi Shlam. You could bring a shlamim on Yom Tov, meaning the Shama Chagigah, because there's a necessity of the food that the regular person eats from it, which has you're allowed to do malacha b'chol nefesh. But even so, says Beis Shammai, you can't do what you're supposed to lean on the animal before you sacrifice your carbon, because leaning on the animal is rabbinically forbidden. To go ahead and utilize a living animal, as a Mishnah teacher said at the Daf Yomi, that there are certain things that are rabbinically forbidden. Now I'll go on a tree and I'll ride on the animal. So you're not allowed to do smicha. So even if you're allowed to bring a shlamim, but you cannot do smicha on it, and avaloy oilis. But the oilis re'iyah, you can't bring at all. Why not? Because Beis Shammai holds when it says that, when it talks about melechas eichel nefesh, that you could do lochem for you, that excludes for you, but not for Hashem, except for the karban tamid, karban safin, because they have a set time. Anything that has a set time, the Torah tells us b'mei adoi, even on Shabbos and b'shor on Yom Tov. But other karbanos that don't have a set time that you could do on Chol Hamoed, you're not allowed to do. They say no, Mavin Shlamim ba'olos, you can bring the Shama Chagigah, you can bring the Oles Re'iyah, there's Soymech, and since you're allowed to bring it, their abundant did not make the Gzeir to Mevatel Esmichi, you can even lean on them. But one thing is, so we're back to the question. When we said that you bring the Oles b'mayit, it's Ba'is Menachulin, so we said that, wait a minute, what, and on Yom Tov it could be perfect Chulin? No. Not that on Yom Tov you would be able to bring anything but Chulin. But we're telling you b'mayit because we're telling you actually only allowed to bring the Oles Re'iyah on Chol Hamoed and not bring on Yom Tov. Says, how could you say that? It would be like Beis Shammai. And Beis Hillel says you could bring it on Yom Tov. So why does it say Oles b'mayit if the same it would be Oles b'Yom Tov? Says the Gemara, you're right. The word's missing from a Mishnah. This is what it's supposed to say. Oles nedarm and adavas. That's what it says. We're all in the Mishnah without learning the Gemara. It's Mavali Olam because you can't read a Mishnah. You read a Mishnah and you think you know what it's saying. Oftentimes in Shas it tells us Chasur Mechser. There's words missing. So and that's why they say if you learn Mishnayos, learn with the Rab, with the Bar Tanura, because you can't just learn Mishnayos without knowing what the Gemara amends it to mean. So the Gemara says, no, there's words missing. And it says, Oilis Nadam and Adavos. Those words are missing from the Mishnah. What type of oilis are we talking about? Not like we assumed from the previous Mishnah over the Mishnah about Masechta of Oilis Re'iyah. No, an oila of a donation, or a vow that a person had vowed to bring an oila. Those are b'mayid boys. Those could be brought on Chalei Shamayid. But beyond Tvein and boys, you're right. It cannot be brought on Yom Tov. Even according to Beis Hillel, at least according to the version of the Tana of our Mishnah, holds that Nadam Dovas are not allowed to be sacrificed in Yom Tov. When Beis Hillel permits it, it's only by like Oilis Re'iyah and Shama Chagigah, because although you can make it up on Chol Hamoed, still the Maisa, the primary mitzvah is on the first day, like it says Chagoizim Oisai, which sounds like on it means on the first day of Yom Tov. So, but the Nadam Dovas cannot be brought on Yom Tov. So that's specifically b'mayit. But then, Oilis Re'iyah, you're right, the Oilis Re'iyah, but for Yom Tov, you brought even on Yom Tov. But Ukshiba, when it is brought, in the Baal HaMechulin, it could only be brought from Chulin. So, essentially, when our Mishnah said Oilis B'mayid, Ba'is Mechulin, it's actually two different cases. Oilis B'mayid was one case. Oilis of Nadam Dav is calling brought on Chol Hamoed. And the next words of Ba'is Mechulin was going Oilis Re'iyah, that is brought on Yom Tov, however, it could only be brought from Chulin funds. Now, Rashi points out, this that was saying that the Oilis Re'iyah can only be brought from Chulin, Rashi is bothered by a question that the Gemara is going to tell us later on, that Beis Hillel holds, as we see actually in our Mishnah itself, that for the Shama Chagigah, it doesn't have to be brought only from Chulin funds. So Rashi says, here you cannot differentiate and to say that maybe you could add on, you could stuff in more of Meiser funds together with the Chulin, so why does it have to be brought only from the Chulin? Because when do we permit, as we'll see later on, this concept of tefillah, of adding on Meiser money, tzedakah money, and we have such halachas, let's say you're buying a lulav, it's davar shabachayv, has to be brought from Chulin, but if you're adding on more, the possibility you could add tzedakah money, so because it's tefillah, it's not part of your chiyuv, that's only by Chagigah, because as the Gemara tells later on, you could add on funds, because the shlamim, that is, people are eating it. He has a lot of eaters, he has very little money. He cannot bring food for the unconsecrated funds that he has. But he could add on the tzedakah money for its need of eating. We allowed it. But the oila, why would you do that? Just bring a ma of kesef. You could bring the cheapest carbon of the oilas re'iyah. There's no reason for us to allow you to use ma'aser sheni funds for the oilus riyah because it can be totally burnt from the mizbeach. So that's Rashi just addressing why specifically in our Mishnah he says by the oilus riyah, but we'll see we're running the Shama Chagiga. He actually says the words that it could even be brought Manamaisa, which we're going to ask on that. But that's the next part of the Mishnah, which the Gemara says right now.
The Gemara says Maser means Maser Shiny, right?
Yeah. Maser Rishon is the ladies. So yeah, we say Maser Sheni funds that you could use that.
Even though it's for yourself, you could eat it.
Right. I'm saying you bring it to Yerushalayim and you eat it. So how can you use it with Davar Shebachayva? So that's just saying that you're right. You can't. Let's say with the Eilis Riyah, you can't bring it from the Maser Sheni. But we'll see. That's the line right now. B'Shamei Simcha. That's boin af min Meiser. Now, why is Shamei Simcha brought even from Meiser funds? Because it's not a Davar Shebachayva if you have meat. Now, if a person has Meiser Sheni funds, which he's supposed to use in Yerushalayim, let's say he didn't want to bring up the Meiser Sheni itself and he redeemed it. So he could purchase a shlamim, which the Gemara includes later on, that any type of simcha will help and qualify for simcha. So you could use your Meiser Sheni funds that you would have anyways bought with food, and you'll buy fleish, geschäft, and you'll get yourself some meat. That would also qualify for the mitzvah simchas yom tov. So that can be brought from Meiser funds. No chayva to go ahead and bring a special shalmei simcha. Now, so that was the next thing we said in the Mishnah. So if you're following the words, Oilas b'moyed was one type of carbon, that was in Dharma Davis. Bois Melchum was another type of carbon of Oilas Riyah. Vashlam and the Meiser, which Shlom was that? That was Shamei Simcha. That's not really an obligation to buy a Shlamim, but you could use the Meiser funds for that, and then you could have meat from that. Then there's another case that we're up to now in the Mishnah reading. The Chagigah is Yom Tov Shal Pesach. And the carbon Chagigah of the first day, so we're on to our fourth type of carbon. We mentioned Dharma Davis, we mentioned Oilas Riyah, and Shalmei Simcha, and we're on to the fourth type in our Mishnah, in those few words already in the first words of the Mishnah. Chagigah is Yom Tov Rishon Pesach, and the carbon Shalmei Chagigah that you bring on the first day of Yom Tov Pesach. We have Machlekes, as our Mishnah said. Shalmei, they said Nachon has to be brought from unconsecrated funds. Sulam, they say Mina Maisa has to be brought from it could be brought from Maisa funds. And Tamar Chazim on the Brisa exactly as we interpreted our Mishnah. Oilas Nedam and Nedavis, that b'moyed boys. They can only brought on Chol Moed. Yom Tov boys can never brought on Yom Tov because you have no obligation to bring it today. Why could you do malachas for that? The next thing the Mishnah, which the Brisa is saying, is Oilas Riyah. That's for the Yom Tov. That could be brought in Yom Tov, like Besil, not like Beishamai. Baruch Shibo in this brought in the Baal Mechulin. Of course, Davar Shebachayva has to be brought from Chulin funds. B'Shalmei Simcha. Boy, you have in the Maisa, even from Maisa funds, because it's not Davar Shebachayva. Any meat you get your hand on, you're filling it with Simcha. The Chagigah is Yom Tov Rishon Pesach. And regarding the Chagigah that's burned the first day of Pesach, which that's most definitely a Davar Shebachayva, even if you have tons and tons of meat, your freezer is stocked from all the boxes you still have from Corona, and you have all that meat, doesn't make a difference. You have to go out and bring that carbon of Shama Chagigah, like the Gemara learns that later on from Chagoisem Oisai. Now, later on, the Gemara is going to ask why we're picking specifically Pesach, as every Yom Tov. But Al Kapanim, the Chagigah that's burned on Yom Tov, that's where we have Machlekes B'Shamim, they say Min HaChulin, it's brought from Chulin. Sulam, they say Min HaMaisa. Again, the Gemara later on is going to ask, it's a Davar Shebachayva, and that's what the Gemara is going to explain. It's going to be what's called Tefela, which of course has to be brought from Chulin. But when you want to make more than what you have to, can you pack that on with tzedakah money, with the Maisa money? That's what the Gemara's discussion is going to be. But first the Gemara asks, as we'll finish over this point, Maishna Chagigah is Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. If you told me Shama Chagigah, why are you picking the first day of Pesach? What's not this with the Ershta Tog of Pesach? It's the whole Pesach. Why Dafka Pesach and not Shavuos and Sukkot? So Amar Abashi says, Hakamashman, the reason why we picked the first day of Pesach, what we wanted to tell you is we wanted to contrast the Chagigah's Chamisha Asr in. That specifically the Chagigah of the 15th of Nisan, that's where you have to have it from Meiser. The Chagigah's Arba Asr Loi. The Chagigah of the day before, of the 14th of Nisan, that not. In other words, we're picking Pesach because what's interesting is, Erev Pesach, the day before, you bring a different Chagigah. When do you bring a different Chagigah? If you had a huge Pesach Chabura, it's very popular. It's on it's WhatsApp. There's like 1,000 people on this Korban Pesach. Everyone wants to be in this Chabura, and everyone's pushing, protects you, and there's not enough to go around. Everyone's going to have this much from the Korban Pesach. As our Pesach is going to be, it's like those hotels that they promise you whatever, and they bring this. It's the whole thing, right? So what they would do is they would bring a Korban Chagigah with that Korban Pesach, so that when you talk, when they bring out the main course, who could eat the groaning boards that were there before, and there's something they're serving the children. You don't even look at the children. You're ready with the kiddush. You're already filled up already. So you'll eat it. You'll be nechal al seiva. So that's a chagigah they used to bring with that Korban Pesach on the 14th of Nisan. So our Mishnah is coming to tell you that the Chagigah of Yom Tov itself on the 15th of Nisan, that has to be brought from Chulin. But the Chagigah of yesterday, of the 14th of Nisan, which is what you bring if you have a huge chabura of people and you don't have enough for Korban Pesach, you bring Chagigah with that does not have to be brought from Chulin. That can be brought even from Meister funds. So we want to make that contrast. Esther took Pesach, that Chagigah has to be from Chulin. But the day before, that could be even from Chulin, as the Gemara finishes on Tabel Chesam and Alf. Amuk Sava, obviously we see that the town of Mishnah held, Chagigah Sabah Lav Daraisa, that the Chagigah that's brought on the 4th of Nisan is not biblical, meaning it's not a biblical obligation to go ahead and bring it, because then it would have to be also a Davar Shabachayva that has to be brought together at the Pesach, and it would have to be brought from Chulin. We're saying no, that of the Chagigah of Yom Tiv, that is a Shama Chagigah, that's an obligation that it says you have to bring a Chagigah, that has to be from Chulin, but the Chagigah day before, that could even be brought from Maisa, I think, at any time. For us things.